On a cold, moonlit night, four friends, Jake, Emily, Noah, and Lisa, stood at the gate of Blackwood Manor. The mansion was notorious for being haunted. They decided to enter, driven by curiosity and a dare. They pushed open the creaky front door and stepped inside. The foyer was dark and dusty, with cobwebs hanging from the ceiling. Old portraits stared at them from the walls. They moved into the living room, where a grand piano stood in one corner and a large, broken chandelier hung from the ceiling. Suddenly, the piano played a single, haunting note. Everyone froze in fear. Gathering their courage, they climbed the creaky staircase to the second floor. The hallway was long and dark, with several closed doors. They heard faint, eerie whispers, but couldn't tell where they were coming from. They opened one of the doors and found an old nursery. Dusty toys were scattered around, and a rocking chair in the corner started moving on its own. They heard a child's laughter echoing through the room. Panicked, they rushed downstairs and found a door leading to the basement. Despite their fear, they decided to investigate. The basement was even darker and colder. Strange symbols were drawn on the walls, and old furniture was strewn around. In the basement, they heard footsteps behind them. Turning around, they saw the ghostly figure of a woman in a tattered dress. Her hollow eyes stared at them as she whispered, "Leave this place." Screaming, they ran up the stairs and out of the house. The door slammed shut behind them, and they could still hear the ghostly whispers. They vowed never to return to Blackwood Manor. Back at home, the friends sat together, still shaken by their experience. They knew they had encountered something truly terrifying and agreed never to speak of it again. It was a dreary afternoon when Sarah, Tom, and their teenage daughter Lily arrived at Eldridge Manor. The old, sprawling mansion stood ominously against the darkening sky, its windows like blank eyes staring back at them. The family had inherited the property from a distant relative, and despite its eerie appearance, they decided to give it a chance. "Wow, this place is huge!" Lily exclaimed, though her excitement was tempered by an uneasy feeling. Tom forced a smile. "Let's make it our home. It just needs a little work." Sarah glanced at the towering structure, feeling a chill run down her spine. "Let's get inside before it gets too dark." Inside, the manor was filled with antique furniture, dusty chandeliers, and creaking wooden floors. As they explored, they discovered a hidden staircase behind an old bookcase. Curiosity got the better of them, and they descended into a dimly lit basement. "This place is like a maze," Tom said, his voice echoing off the walls. Sarah found an old diary on a dusty table. "Look at this," she said, flipping through the pages. "It's from the 1800s. Lily, shining a flashlight around the room, gasped as she saw strange symbols carved into the walls. "What do these mean?" That night, as they settled into their new home, strange things began to happen. Lily's room was the coldest in the house, and she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Around midnight, she heard whispering voices and saw a shadow moving in the corner of her room. "Mom! Dad!" she screamed, running to their room. Tom and Sarah woke up startled. "What is it, Lily?" Tom asked. "There's something in my room. I heard voices and saw a shadow," Lily said, trembling. Sarah tried to comfort her. "It's just your imagination, honey. This place is old and creepy, but there's nothing to be afraid of." The next day, Sarah delved deeper into the old diary. It belonged to a woman named Eleanor Eldridge, who wrote about the strange occurrences in the manor and her experiments with the occult. She mentioned a mirror in the attic that was the source of the hauntings. "We need to find that mirror," Sarah said, showing the diary to Tom. Tom nodded. "Let's go to the attic." Together, they climbed the narrow staircase to the attic. Amidst the cobwebs and old trunks, they found the mirror, covered with a dusty cloth. "This must be it," Sarah said, her voice barely above a whisper. As they uncovered the mirror, a cold breeze swept through the attic. The mirror's surface was strangely clear, and as they looked into it, they saw faint images of people moving behind them, ghostly figures trapped within the glass. Sarah gasped. "This is it. This is what's causing everything." Tom placed a hand on her shoulder. "We need to destroy it." But before they could act, the mirror began to glow, and the room filled with an unearthly light. The figures in the mirror became more distinct, reaching out towards them. "We need to get out of here," Tom shouted, pulling Sarah towards the stairs. That night, the hauntings intensified. Doors slammed shut on their own, footsteps echoed in empty hallways, and ghostly apparitions appeared throughout the house. The family realized they had to find a way to end the hauntings for good. "We need to perform a ritual," Sarah said, showing them a passage from the diary. "It's the only way to banish the spirits." Tom gathered the necessary items: candles, salt, and a ceremonial dagger. "Let's do this. We have no other choice." They set up the ritual in the basement, forming a circle with the salt and placing the mirror in the center. The family began the ritual, chanting the incantations from the diary. As they did, the temperature in the room dropped, and the ghostly figures from the mirror began to emerge, swirling around them. "Keep going," Sarah urged, her voice shaking. Tom held the dagger steady, ready for the final part of the ritual. "We're almost there." Lily, clutching her mother's hand, watched in terror as the spirits drew closer, their faces contorted with rage and sorrow. As Tom raised the dagger to complete the ritual, a powerful force knocked him to the ground. The mirror glowed brighter, and a deafening roar filled the room. "No, we can't stop now!" Sarah shouted, helping Tom up. With renewed determination, Tom plunged the dagger into the mirror. The glass shattered, releasing a blinding light and a wave of cold air that knocked them all back. The spirits screamed and dissipated, leaving the room in silence. The temperature began to rise, and the oppressive feeling lifted. "It's over," Tom said, breathing heavily. The next morning, the manor felt different. Sunlight streamed through the windows, and the oppressive atmosphere was gone. The family began packing their things, eager to leave the haunted house behind. "We did it," Lily said, smiling for the first time in days. Sarah nodded. "Let's never speak of this place again." Tom agreed. "We need to move on with our lives." As they drove away from Eldridge Manor, the weight of the past days lifted, and they felt hopeful for the future. Back home, life seemed to return to normal. However, one night, Sarah found a piece of the shattered mirror in her bag. She stared at it, her heart pounding. Suddenly, she heard a familiar whisper and saw a shadow move across the room. "Tom, it's not over," she whispered, feeling a chill run down her spine. As the shadow loomed larger, the whisper grew louder, and Sarah realized with horror that the spirits had followed them home.
Blackwood House stood isolated in the dense forest. Its windows were broken, and the walls were cracked. As dusk set in, the sky turned an eerie orange and purple, casting a sinister glow on the decaying structure. Inside the house, the foyer was dark and filled with dust and cobwebs. An old, creaky staircase led up to the second floor, and a broken chandelier hung from the ceiling, its crystals missing or shattered. The living room was filled with tattered furniture and a cold fireplace. A broken window let in a sliver of moonlight, illuminating the peeling wallpaper and the thick layer of dust that covered everything. The kitchen was a mess of broken cabinets and rusty appliances. A large wooden table in the center was covered in dust and cobwebs, and an old broken stove stood in the corner, untouched for years. The dining room featured a long table with an old tattered tablecloth. The chairs were scattered and overturned, and a single dusty candle sat at the center of the table, unlit and forgotten. The hallway was long and dark, with old creaky floorboards and faded wallpaper. Closed doors lined the hallway, each marked with a different ominous symbol, hinting at the secrets hidden within. The bedroom was dusty and old, with a large canopy bed covered in cobwebs. The curtains were tattered, and moonlight streamed in through a cracked window, casting eerie shadows on the floor. The attic was filled with old, forgotten items covered in dust and cobwebs. A single small window let in a beam of moonlight, illuminating strange old toys scattered on the floor. The air was thick with the smell of mold and decay. The basement was dark and damp, with stone walls and a dirt floor. Old rusty chains hung from the ceiling, and the air was thick with the smell of mold and decay. The sense of dread was palpable, as if the walls themselves whispered secrets. As dawn broke, Blackwood House was bathed in a soft golden light. The forest around it remained dark, but the first rays of the sun illuminated the decaying structure. The night's terror faded, but the house's haunting presence remained, a testament to its cursed history.
In a remote forest clearing stands an old, dilapidated cabin, its windows boarded up and its door barely hanging on its hinges. Four friends, Tom, Sarah, Mike, and Emily, arrive at the cabin for a weekend getaway. The sun is setting, casting long shadows over the eerie landscape. Inside the cabin, the air is thick with dust and decay. Cobwebs hang from the rafters, and the floorboards creak ominously underfoot. The friends explore cautiously, their footsteps echoing off the walls as they navigate the dimly lit rooms. As they search the cabin, they discover a trapdoor leading to a dark, musty basement. With trepidation, they descend into the depths below, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. The air grows colder, and the sound of dripping water echoes off the stone walls. In the basement, they begin to hear faint whispers that seem to echo off the stone walls. The whispers grow louder and more insistent, filling the air with an eerie chorus. The friends exchange nervous glances, their hearts pounding as they try to locate the source of the haunting sounds. Suddenly, ghostly figures materialize before them, translucent apparitions with hollow eyes and outstretched hands. The ethereal beings glide through the darkness, their movements graceful yet unsettling. The friends watch in horror as the spirits draw closer, their presence filling the basement with a chilling aura. With adrenaline driving them, the friends turn and flee from the basement, their hearts pounding with terror. They scramble up the stairs, their footsteps echoing off the walls as they race for the safety of the cabin above. Behind them, the ghostly spirits follow, their unearthly wails growing fainter as the friends struggle to escape. Exhausted and trembling, the friends burst through the door of the cabin, their minds reeling from the horrors they've witnessed. They collapse on the floor, their bodies shaking with adrenaline and fear. Outside, the moon casts an eerie glow over the forest, as if mourning the events that have unfolded.
In a secluded forest, shrouded in mist, lies an ancient mansion rumored to be haunted. A group of friends, Emma, Mark, and Sarah, venture into the forest one chilly evening, drawn by the allure of the mansion's dark history. As they approach the mansion, they are greeted by an imposing wrought iron gate, its hinges creaking ominously in the chilly night air. The mansion looms before them, its grandeur faded and its windows like empty eyes staring out into the darkness. Inside the mansion, the air is thick with dust and the sound of creaking floorboards echoes through the empty halls. The friends explore room after room, their footsteps muffled by faded carpets and their voices swallowed by the oppressive silence. As they delve deeper into the mansion, they uncover signs of its dark past. Forgotten rooms filled with cobweb-covered furniture, secret passages hidden behind crumbling walls, and faded portraits of long-dead residents whose eyes seem to follow their every move. As night falls and shadows deepen, the mansion comes alive with strange noises and eerie whispers. The friends feel a presence lurking in the darkness, unseen but unmistakably malevolent, its icy fingers brushing against their skin like the chill of a grave. In a desperate bid to escape the mansion's grasp, the friends race through its labyrinthine halls, their hearts pounding and their breath coming in ragged gasps. But the mansion seems to have other plans, its corridors shifting and changing before their eyes, trapping them in a nightmarish maze from which there may be no escape. Cornered in the mansion's dark heart, the friends confront the malevolent force that has plagued them since their arrival. With a final desperate act of defiance, they banish the entity back into the shadows from whence it came, freeing themselves from its grasp and escaping into the night. On a foggy night, four friends, Jack, Mia, Ethan, and Sophie, arrived at Blackwood Manor. The old abandoned mansion was said to be cursed. They had come to investigate the legend. They pushed it open the heavy front door, which creaked loudly. Inside, the air was cold and stale. Dust covered every surface and cobwebs hung in the corners. The living room was filled with old furniture covered in white sheets. An antique chandelier hung from the ceiling, and a grand piano stood in the corner. Suddenly, the piano played a single, eerie note, causing everyone to jump. They moved to the library, where shelves of dusty books lined the walls. Jack picked up an old book, and as he opened it, a cold breeze swept through the room, making the candles flicker. They entered a long hallway filled with old portraits. The eyes of the portraits seemed to follow them as they walked. Mia shivered, feeling a chill run down her spine. At the end of the hallway, they found a door leading to the basement. Despite their fear, they decided to go down. The wooden stairs creaked under their weight, and the air grew colder with each step. The basement was cold and damp. Strange symbols were drawn on the walls. In the corner, they saw a ghostly figure of a woman in a tattered dress. She reached out to them and they felt an icy chill. Terrified, they ran up the stairs and out of the house. The door slammed shut behind them and they could still hear the ghostly whispers. They vowed never to return. Back at their homes, the friends sat together, still shaken by their experience. They knew they had encountered something truly terrifying and decided never to speak of it again.
In a secluded forest, shrouded in mist and mystery, stood an old mansion, long abandoned and forgotten by time. Its towering facade loomed ominously over the surrounding trees, its windows dark and empty. Despite the warnings of locals, a group of friends decided to explore the mansion, drawn by the allure of its haunted reputation. The group consisted of 4 friends: Alex, Sarah, Mike, and Emily. With a mix of excitement and trepidation, they approached the mansion, their footsteps echoing in the silence of the forest. Alex, the leader of the group, was determined to uncover the mansion's secrets, while Sarah and Emily exchanged nervous glances, and Mike tried to mask his fear with bravado. Inside the mansion, the air was heavy with dust and decay. Cobwebs adorned the ceilings, and the floorboards creaked ominously underfoot. As they explored the dimly lit halls, they couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, and strange whispers seemed to echo through the empty rooms. As they delved deeper into the mansion, the whispers grew louder, and the shadows seemed to twist and contort in the flickering light. Suddenly, they stumbled upon a room filled with strange artifacts and arcane symbols. A sense of dread washed over them as they realized they had stumbled upon something ancient and malevolent. Suddenly, a chilling wind swept through the room, extinguishing their flashlights and plunging them into darkness. Panic set in as they heard unearthly whispers and felt cold fingers brush against their skin. Frozen with fear, they realized they were not alone in the mansion. The shadows themselves were alive and hungry for their souls. With adrenaline coursing through their veins, the friends fled from the mansion, their screams echoing through the halls. The shadows pursued them relentlessly, twisting and contorting in their wake. Bursting through the front door, they stumbled into the forest, gasping for breath as they prayed for escape from the nightmare. As they caught their breath, the friends knew they had escaped the mansion's clutches, but the memory of their terrifying ordeal would haunt them forever. As they made their way back to civilization, they vowed never to speak of their experience, lest the shadows find them once more and drag them back into the darkness.
On a chilly autumn evening, 4 friends, Mark, Lisa, Danny, and Sophie, arrived at the small, deserted village of Hollow Creek. They had heard rumors of a haunting and wanted to investigate. The village was eerily quiet, with mist curling around the old, decaying buildings. The friends walked through the empty streets, their footsteps echoing. They saw abandoned houses, broken street lamps, and overgrown gardens. As they explored, they noticed strange symbols carved into the doors and walls of the houses. They found an old inn at the center of the village. The door creaked as they pushed it open. Inside, the inn was dark and cold. Dust covered the furniture and a musty smell filled the air. They decided to stay there for the night, hoping to uncover the village's secrets. As night fell, the friends gathered in the main room of the inn. They set up their sleeping bags and lit a small fire in the fireplace. The flickering light cast eerie shadows on the walls. They heard faint whispers and creaks, but dismissed them as the old building settling. At midnight, Sophie woke up to a strange noise. She saw a figure standing at the foot of her sleeping bag. She screamed, waking the others. The figure vanished, but the friends could still feel its presence. They huddled together, too scared to sleep. The next morning, they decided to search the inn for clues. In an old chest, they found a diary. It belonged to a girl named Emily who lived in the village decades ago. Her last entry spoke of a dark presence that haunted Hollow Creek, driving the villagers away. As they read the diary, they learned that Emily had tried to summon spirits to help the village, but something went wrong. Instead of help, she had unleashed a malevolent entity. The friends realized that the haunting was real, and they were in grave danger. Suddenly, the room grew cold. The friends could see their breath in the air. The entity appeared before them, a dark, shadowy figure with glowing red eyes. It moved towards them, whispering in a language they couldn't understand. Panic set in as they tried to find a way out. Mark found an old key in the diary. Desperate, he used it on a hidden door they hadn't noticed before. The door led to a tunnel beneath the inn. The friends rushed through the tunnel, the entity's whispers echoing behind them. They emerged outside, gasping for breath. The friends didn't stop running until they were far from Hollow Creek. Exhausted and terrified, they vowed never to speak of what happened. As they left, they could still hear the faint whispers of the entity, warning them never to return. Ravenwood Manor, a looming Gothic structure, dominates the landscape with its ominous presence. The setting sun bathes its darkened facade in a blood-red glow, as if warning all who dare approach of the secrets it holds within. The entrance to Ravenwood Manor is marked by ornate iron gates, their twisted designs speaking of a forgotten era. Vines snake their way around the cold metal, as if nature itself is reclaiming the estate from the hands of man. Within the sprawling grounds of Ravenwood Manor, darkness reigns supreme. Overgrown hedges and wilted flowers lend an air of neglect to the once grand estate. Moonlight struggles to penetrate the thick canopy of trees, casting eerie shadows upon the unkempt landscape. In the backyard of Ravenwood Manor, twisted paths wind their way through a maze of gnarled trees. At the center stands an ancient well, its stone walls covered in moss and mystery, beckoning those brave enough to uncover its secrets. Adjacent to Ravenwood Manor lies an overgrown cemetery, its weathered tombstones peeking through the tangled undergrowth like silent sentinels of the past. Wisps of fog cling to the ground, adding to the eerie atmosphere of the forgotten burial ground. Within the entrance hall of Ravenwood Manor, flickering candlelight casts long shadows upon the grand staircase. Tattered portraits line the walls, their subjects' eyes seeming to follow every move of those who dare to enter. In the dining room of Ravenwood Manor, a long table is set for an abandoned feast, its once luxurious settings now covered in dust and cobwebs. The chandelier above hangs low, its light obscured by the thick layer of neglect that pervades the room. Within the library of Ravenwood Manor, dusty shelves stretch as far as the eye can see, laden with forgotten tomes and ancient manuscripts. Moonlight filters through stained glass windows, casting colorful patterns upon the worn carpet that bears the weight of centuries of knowledge. In the bedroom of Ravenwood Manor, the once grand canopy bed now sags under the weight of time, its tattered curtains billowing in the wind like ghosts of the past. Moonlight filters through cracked windows, casting eerie shadows upon the peeling wallpaper, as if the very walls themselves are haunted by the memories of those who once slept within. As dawn breaks, the front steps of Ravenwood Manor are bathed in the soft light of. In a quiet small town nestled among rolling hills, the last rays of the setting sun paint the sky in hues of orange and pink. Cozy houses line the streets, their windows glowing warmly against the encroaching darkness. But beneath the tranquil facade, whispers of something sinister linger in the air. On the outskirts of town stands an old abandoned house, its once grand facade now crumbling and decayed. Windows are boarded up, and the yard is overrun with weeds that seem to reach out like grasping fingers. Moonlight bathes the scene in an otherworldly glow, casting long, ominous shadows that seem to pulse with a life of their own. Inside the abandoned house, the living room is frozen in time, its once grandeur now a distant memory. Dusty furniture sits silent and still, draped in cobwebs that hang like gossamer threads from the ceiling. Moonlight filters weakly through cracks in the boarded-up windows, casting eerie patterns that dance upon the worn floorboards. Beyond the abandoned house stretches a dense forest, its twisted trees looming like silent sentinels in the darkness. Long, twisted shadows dance upon the forest floor, moving with an otherworldly grace. The air is thick with the sound of rustling leaves and the distant whispers that seem to echo through the trees, sending shivers down the spine of any who dare to venture within. In the kitchen of the abandoned house, decay holds sway, with peeling wallpaper and rusty appliances bearing witness to the passage of time. Moonlight filters weakly through grimy windows, casting eerie shadows that seem to writhe and twist upon the cracked linoleum floor, as if alive with some unseen presence. In the heart of the forest lies an ancient cemetery, its weathered headstones standing sentinel over the graves of generations long gone. Moonlight bathes the scene in an ethereal glow, casting shadows that seem to dance among the graves, whispering secrets of the past to any who will listen. Within the abandoned house, a desolate bedroom lies silent and still, its once cozy atmosphere now replaced by an oppressive sense of emptiness. A rotting bed frame stands as a silent sentinel against the decaying walls, while tattered curtains flutter in the breeze. Moonlight filters weakly through cracked windows, casting eerie shadows that seem to linger like phantoms in the night. A decrepit bridge spans a gaping chasm, its rusted metal groaning and creaking in the wind. Moonlight reflects off the murky waters below, casting eerie reflections on the moss-covered stones that line the riverbank. The air is heavy with the scent of decay, and a sense of foreboding hangs thick in the air. Deep within the bowels of the abandoned house lies the basement, a dark and musty chamber filled with cobwebs and decay. Moonlight filters weakly through a small barred window, casting eerie shadows that seem to dance upon the damp concrete floor like specters in the night. As dawn breaks, the town square is bathed in the soft light of a new day, casting long shadows that retreat before the encroaching sunlight. The darkness gives way to the promise of a new beginning, but the whispers of the shadows linger, a reminder of the horrors that lurk within the depths of the night.
The dense forest of Hollow Creek was known for its eerie legends. Sarah, a young journalist, drove through the fog-covered road, her headlights barely piercing the thick mist. She was here to investigate the mysterious disappearances that plagued the town. As she reached the edge of the forest, a grand, decaying mansion emerged from the fog. Sarah stepped inside the mansion, her footsteps echoing in the vast, empty space. The air was cold and damp, and the smell of mold filled her nose. She walked through the grand foyer, noticing the decaying furniture and torn paintings. Her flashlight flickered, casting long shadows on the walls. Sarah's exploration led her to an old library. Shelves of dusty books lined the walls, and a grand fireplace dominated one side of the room. As she examined the books, she noticed one that seemed out of place. Pulling it out, a hidden door creaked open, revealing a dark, narrow passageway. Sarah entered the hidden passage, her flashlight illuminating the narrow, claustrophobic space. The walls were lined with old, faded photographs and strange symbols. As she moved deeper, she felt an overwhelming sense of dread. The passage led to a small, hidden room, filled with old toys and a child's bed. In the hidden room, Sarah felt a sudden chill. She turned to see a ghostly figure of a young girl standing by the bed, her eyes hollow and filled with sorrow. The girl reached out to Sarah, whispering, "Help me." Before Sarah could react, the girl vanished, leaving a small antique locket on the bed. Sarah picked up the locket and opened it, revealing a photograph of the young girl and an inscription, "To my beloved daughter, Emily." Determined to uncover the truth, Sarah searched the mansion's records and discovered that Emily had disappeared decades ago. Her family had hidden a dark secret. Emily was not their only victim. As Sarah pieced together the tragic history, the spirits of the mansion grew restless. Shadows moved on their own, and ghostly whispers filled the air. Emily's spirit appeared again, this time leading Sarah to the basement. There she found the remains of Emily and other victims. The spirits demanded justice. Determined to set the spirits free, Sarah confronted the mansion's last living descendant, a reclusive old man. She forced him to confess to his family's crimes. As he admitted the truth, the spirits appeared, surrounding him. With a final, sorrowful wail, they dragged him into the shadows, vanishing forever. With the truth revealed and justice served, the mansion began to crumble. Sarah escaped just in time, watching from a distance as the once grand estate collapsed into ruins. The spirits of Hollow Creek were finally at peace, and the oppressive fog lifted, revealing a bright, clear sky. In the heart of Ravenwood Forest lies an old, desolate road, shrouded in mist and mystery. 4 friends, Sam, Emma, Ryan, and Jess, embark on a road trip and find themselves navigating this eerie path. Tall trees loom overhead, casting long shadows that seem to dance in the dim light. As they journey deeper into the forest, they come across the imposing gates of Ravenwood Manor, a dilapidated mansion said to be haunted by restless spirits. The wrought iron gates creak open ominously as they approach, inviting them into the depths of the estate. Inside Ravenwood Manor, the foyer is dimly lit by flickering candles, their flames casting dancing shadows on the walls. Dust hangs in the air, catching the faint moonlight that filters through the broken windows. The friends' footsteps echo through the empty halls as they explore the abandoned mansion. As they wander deeper into the mansion, they stumble upon a grand ballroom, its once opulent features now faded and decayed. The room is filled with the echo of music long gone, and the air is heavy with the scent of old perfume. Strange symbols adorn the walls, their meaning lost to time. Suddenly, ghostly figures materialize before them, translucent apparitions with hollow eyes and outstretched hands. The spirits drift through the ballroom, their movements graceful yet unsettling. The friends watch in horror as the ghosts draw closer, their presence filling the room with a chilling aura. With adrenaline coursing through their veins, the friends turn and flee from Ravenwood Manor, their hearts pounding with terror. They race through the empty halls, their breath ragged and their footsteps echoing off the walls. Behind them, the ghostly apparitions follow, their unearthly wails growing fainter as the friends struggle to escape. Evelyn and her friends, Mark, Lisa, and John, stood at the edge of the dense forest, staring at the looming structure of Blackwood Mansion. The sun was setting, casting long shadows that seemed to reach out and grab at their feet. The mansion, abandoned for decades, had an eerie aura that made them shiver despite the warm summer evening. "I can't believe we are actually doing this," Lisa muttered, her voice trembling. "It's just for one night," Mark reassured her, though he didn't sound convinced. "We spend the night, prove the ghost stories wrong, and then leave." John, the skeptic of the group, laughed. "Ghosts aren't real. You'll see." Evelyn, the leader of the group, took a deep breath and stepped forward, pushing open the creaking iron gate. "Let's go." Inside the mansion, the air was thick with dust and the scent of decay. The wooden floorboards creaked under their feet as they explored the dimly lit corridors. Each room they entered seemed more decayed than the last, with peeling wallpaper and broken furniture strewn about. "Look at this," John called from one of the rooms. He held up an old photograph of a family, their faces blurred with age. "This must be the original owners." Evelyn shivered. "There's something unsettling about this place." Mark found an old journal on a dusty bookshelf. "Maybe this will tell us more about what happened here." As the night wore on, strange things began to happen. Lights flickered even though the mansion had no electricity. The sound of footsteps echoed through the halls, though no one was there. Whispers seemed to come from the walls themselves. Lisa clung to Mark. "Did you hear that?" "It's just the wind," John said, though his voice was unsteady. Evelyn held the journal tightly, her eyes scanning the pages. "There's something here. Something about a curse." A loud crash echoed from the hallway, and they all jumped. Mark grabbed a flashlight and led the way, finding a broken mirror on the floor, though no one had touched it. Evelyn's hands trembled as she turned the pages of the journal. "It says here that the family who lived here dabbled in dark magic. They summoned something they couldn't control." Mark's eyes widened. "What did they summon?" "A spirit of vengeance," Evelyn whispered. "It's trapped here, and it feeds on fear." John scoffed, but his face was pale. "This is ridiculous. There are no such things as spirits." Lisa pointed to the mirror. "Then how do you explain that?" Before John could answer, the temperature in the room dropped suddenly. Their breath fogged in the air, and a low growl resonated from the shadows. A shadowy figure emerged from the darkness, its eyes glowing red. The friends backed away, their fear palpable. The figure seemed to grow stronger, feeding on their terror. "Stay together!" Evelyn shouted, her voice breaking. John tried to act brave, stepping forward. "Leave us alone." The spirit lashed out, sending John crashing into a wall. Lisa screamed, and Mark pulled her back, trying to protect her. Evelyn held up the journal like a shield. "There's a way to banish it. We just have to find it." Evelyn frantically flipped through the journal, looking for the banishment ritual. "We need to find the symbols and say the words." Mark and Lisa barricaded the door, trying to buy them time. The spirit pounded against it, its growls growing louder. "Found it!" Evelyn cried, showing the page to the others. "Let's do this," Mark said, determination in his eyes. They quickly gathered the materials described in the journal, creating a circle of protection. Evelyn began to chant the words, her voice steady despite the fear. The spirit broke through the door just as Evelyn finished the chant. It roared in fury, but the circle of protection glowed, holding it at bay. "Keep chanting!" Evelyn yelled, her voice filled with authority. The spirit thrashed against the barrier, but it couldn't break through. Slowly, it began to weaken, its form dissolving into the air. With one final, deafening scream, the spirit vanished. The mansion fell silent, the oppressive atmosphere lifting. "We did it," Mark said, his voice filled with relief. The friends stumbled out of the mansion, the first light of dawn breaking over the horizon. They were exhausted, but relieved to be alive. "Let's never do that again," Lisa said, managing a weak smile. Evelyn held up the journal, now closed. "We should make sure no one else ever tries." John nodded. "Agreed. This place should stay forgotten." They walked away, the mansion behind them now just a shadow against the rising sun.
On a crisp autumn day, a group of friends arrives at a remote cabin nestled deep within the Whispering Woods. The leaves crunch beneath their feet as they unload their belongings from the car, eager for a weekend of hiking and relaxation. But as they glance into the dense forest surrounding the cabin, a sense of unease washes over them, as if the trees themselves are whispering secrets they dare not share. The friends set out on a hike through the Whispering Woods, following a narrow trail that winds through the dense foliage. The air is cool and fragrant, and the only sound is the gentle rustle of leaves overhead. But as they venture deeper into the forest, the whispers grow louder, like a chorus of voices urging them to turn back. As they hike, the friends stumble upon an abandoned cabin hidden deep in the woods. The windows are shattered, and the door hangs off its hinges. Intrigued, they decide to investigate, their curiosity outweighing their sense of caution. But as they step inside, they're greeted by an eerie silence that hangs heavy in the air. Inside the cabin, the friends find strange symbols scrawled on the walls and mysterious artifacts scattered about. A sense of unease washes over them as they realize they've stumbled upon something dark and sinister. They exchange nervous whispers, their voices echoing in the empty space. As night falls, the friends gather around a campfire outside the cabin, their faces illuminated by the flickering flames. But as they talk and laugh, they become aware of a strange sound, a soft whispering that seems to emanate from the very air around them. Their laughter fades, replaced by a growing sense of unease. That night, the friends are plagued by haunting dreams, visions of shadowy figures lurking in the darkness, their eyes glowing with malevolent intent. They toss and turn in their sleep, unable to escape the grip of fear that holds them tight. When they wake, they find themselves drenched in sweat, their hearts pounding in their chests. As the whispers grow louder and more insistent, the friends begin to unravel, their minds tormented by the malevolent voices that seem to follow them wherever they go. They argue and accuse one another, their once strong bonds fraying under the weight of paranoia and fear. But as they spiral further into madness, they realize they must confront the darkness that lurks within the Whispering Woods if they have any hope of escaping its grasp. Armed with determination, the friends set out into the forest, their hearts pounding in their chests as they confront the source of the whispers that have tormented them for so long. With each step, the voices grow louder, until they're surrounded by a cacophony of sound that threatens to drive them mad. But as they reach the heart of the woods, they discover the truth. The whispers are not coming from some malevolent force, but from the very trees themselves, their branches swaying in the breeze like fingers beckoning them closer. With a newfound sense of understanding, the friends make their way out of the forest, their minds clearer than they've been in days. As they emerge into the light of day, they feel a weight lifted from their shoulders, knowing that they've faced their fears and emerged stronger for it. Though the Whispering Woods will always hold a certain mystique, they know they'll never again be haunted by the whispers that once tormented them. Ravenswood House had a reputation for being the most haunted place in the small town of Millfield. On a misty autumn evening, Emma, a curious journalist, arrived to investigate the legends surrounding the mansion. She parked her car at the gate, shivering from the cold and the eerie atmosphere. The mansion loomed in the distance, its windows like dark, watchful eyes. Emma pushed open the creaky wooden door of Ravenswood House. Inside, the air was cold and stale. Dust covered every surface and cobwebs hung from the ceiling. She turned on her flashlight, revealing a grand but decayed foyer. Her footsteps echoed as she ventured further inside, the silence pressing in on her. As Emma explored the mansion, she felt a sudden chill. Turning a corner, she saw a shadowy figure at the end of the hallway. The figure vanished as quickly as it appeared, leaving her heart pounding. Determined to uncover more, she made her way to the library, hoping to find records of the mansion's dark past. In the library, Emma found rows of dusty old books. As she searched through them, she heard whispers and the sound of pages turning by themselves. She discovered an old diary belonging to the mansion's original owner, Lady Ravenswood. The entry spoke of dark rituals and a curse that had been placed on the house and its inhabitants. Emma's exploration led her to a room filled with mirrors. As she walked through, her reflection seemed to move on its own, eyes following her with an unsettling intensity. One mirror in particular caught her attention. In it, she saw the ghostly figure of a woman crying, her eyes pleading for help. Emma reached out to touch the mirror, but the image vanished. Emma discovered a hidden door behind a tattered curtain in the study. She descended the creaky stairs into a dark, musty basement. The room was filled with strange symbols painted on the walls and old dusty books scattered on a table. She found a journal detailing the dark rituals and a curse placed on the house by Lady Ravenswood. As Emma read the journal, the basement grew colder. A ghostly figure of Lady Ravenswood appeared, her face twisted with rage. She pointed at Emma and screamed, "You should not have come here." The walls shook, and the air filled with a chilling wind. Emma knew she had to leave immediately. Emma bolted up the stairs, the spirit's screams echoing behind her. She raced through the mansion, the walls seeming to close in on her. She burst through the front door and into the night, gasping for breath. The house stood silent and still, but she could feel the weight of its curse pressing down on her. Back in her apartment, Emma reviewed the photos and notes she had taken. The evidence of the haunting was undeniable. She wrote her article, revealing the dark history of Ravenswood House. As she finished, she felt a cold draft and heard Lady Ravenswood's voice whisper, "You cannot escape the curse." Emma knew the haunting was far from over. On a foggy autumn evening, 4 friends, Lucy, Tom, Ava, and Ben, stand before Greystone Manor, an abandoned mansion known for its haunted past. Ben, always the thrill-seeker, dares the group to spend the night inside. With a mix of nervousness and excitement, they agree, pushing open the creaky iron gate and stepping onto the overgrown path leading to the mansion. The front door groans loudly as they push it open, revealing a dark, musty foyer. Cobwebs hang from the ceiling, and a thick layer of dust covers everything. The air smells of mold and decay. They switch on their flashlights, casting long shadows on the peeling wallpaper as they step inside, the door slamming shut behind them. They decide to explore and find themselves in a grand library, filled with old leather-bound books. A large, dusty chandelier hangs from the ceiling, and an ancient fireplace sits cold and empty. Lucy notices a book lying open on a table, its pages filled with strange symbols. As she touches it, the chandelier above them begins to sway. A sudden cold breeze blows through the room, extinguishing their flashlights. In the darkness, they hear faint whispers and the soft sound of footsteps. Panic sets in as they fumble to turn their flashlights back on, only to see a shadowy figure disappear into the next room. They follow the figure into the kitchen where old rusted appliances and broken dishes litter the floor. The air is colder here and the feeling of being watched intensifies. Ava opens a cupboard and a pair of ghostly eyes stare back at her. She screams and the cupboard door slams shut on its own. In the hallway, they find a door leading to the basement. Ben suggests going down, but Lucy hesitates. The others convince her, and they slowly descend the creaky wooden stairs. The basement is pitch dark and the air is damp and chilly. They feel an overwhelming sense of dread. In the basement, they find an old wooden table with strange markings. A low growl resonates through the room, and they see glowing red eyes staring at them from the far corner. Panic-stricken, they scramble back up the stairs as the growling grows louder. Desperate to leave, they race towards the front door. The house seems to come alive, with doors slamming and ghostly wails echoing through the halls. They struggle to open the front door, finally bursting out into the cold night air. The mansion falls silent behind them. Outside, they collapse into the grass, gasping for breath. The mansion looms dark and silent behind them. They vow never to return, each one haunted by the night's events. The night air is cold, but they feel a sense of relief and safety. Back at their homes, the friends try to return to normal life. But each night, they are haunted by nightmares of the ghostly eyes and the whispers in the dark. The memories of that night remain vivid, and they realize that some horrors can never be forgotten. Emily, a young historian, inherits the infamous Blackwood Mansion from her estranged great-uncle. Accompanied by her friends Jack and Lucy, she arrives on a stormy evening, the rain pouring down as they make their way through the overgrown driveway. The mansion looms before them, dark and foreboding. "Are you sure about this, Emily?" Jack asks, his voice barely audible over the howling wind. "We need to know what he left behind," Emily replies, gripping the ancient key tightly. Inside, the mansion is a maze of dusty rooms and forgotten relics. The grand staircase is adorned with cobwebs, and the air smells of mildew and decay. They split up to explore, flashlights casting eerie shadows on the walls. "This place is a historian's dream," Emily says, opening an old book. Lucy shivers. "More like a nightmare." Jack finds a locked door in the basement. "Hey, I think I found something." After breaking the lock, they enter a hidden room filled with strange artifacts and occult symbols. In the center, there's an altar with a dusty old book and a glowing amulet. "This must be where he performed his rituals," Jack says, examining the symbols. Emily picks up the amulet. "Look at this. It's beautiful." Lucy steps back uneasy. "I don't like this place. We should leave." That night, they decide to stay in the mansion. As they settle in, strange things begin to happen. Doors creak and whispering voices echo through the halls. Emily is awakened by the sound of footsteps in her room. "Who's there?" she whispers, clutching the amulet. A shadowy figure moves in the corner, vanishing when she turns on the light. The next day, Emily and her friends delve into the old book they found. It reveals a dark history of the Blackwood family, including a curse that promises eternal torment to anyone who disturbs the amulet. "This explains the strange occurrences," Emily says, her voice shaking. "We need to put the amulet back." "But where does it go?" Jack asks. The book mentions a secret crypt beneath the mansion. They find the entrance to the crypt hidden beneath a trapdoor in the basement. The air is cold and damp as they descend the stone steps. The crypt is filled with ancient tombs and eerie statues. "This place gives me the creeps," Lucy says, her voice echoing. Emily finds a pedestal with an indentation matching the amulet. "This must be it." As she places the amulet on the pedestal, the ground shakes, and a ghostly figure appears, screaming in rage. That night, the mansion becomes a nightmare. Ghostly apparitions roam the halls and objects move on their own. The friends are terrorized by relentless hauntings. They gather in the living room, trying to come up with a plan. "We need to banish the spirits," Emily says, holding the book of spells. Jack nods. "Let's do it together." They begin the ritual, their voices shaky but determined. As they recite the banishment spell, the apparitions grow more aggressive. The temperature drops and a fierce wind blows through the mansion. The dark figure from before reappears, trying to stop them. "Keep going!" Emily shouts over the chaos. With a final shout, they complete the ritual. The figure screams and dissolves into mist. The wind dies down, and the mansion falls silent. "We did it," Lucy whispers, tears of relief in her eyes. The next morning, the mansion feels different. The oppressive atmosphere is gone, and sunlight streams through the windows. The friends prepare to leave, feeling a sense of accomplishment. "We should document everything," Emily says, looking back at the mansion one last time. Jack nods. "Let's make sure no one else has to go through this." They lock the doors and drive away, leaving Blackwood Mansion and its dark history behind. Back home, life seems to return to normal. But one night, Emily finds the old amulet on her bedside table, even though she left it in the crypt. Her heart races as she picks it up, and the room grows cold. A whispering voice fills the room. "You cannot escape the curse." Emily turns to see the dark figure standing behind her, its eyes glowing with malevolence. She screams as the room plunges into darkness.
In the heart of a dense forest lies an abandoned mansion, its decrepit walls shrouded in darkness. Four friends, Alex, Maya, Ben, and Lily, venture into the woods one misty evening, drawn by rumors of the mansion's haunting. As they approach, the mist thickens, enveloping the mansion in an eerie veil. With trepidation, the friends push open the creaking front door and step into the mansion's entryway. Cobwebs hang from the ceiling, and dust motes dance in the dim light. The air is heavy with a sense of foreboding as they explore further, their footsteps echoing off the dilapidated walls. Inside the mansion, they encounter a labyrinth of hallways lined with closed doors. Each room they enter is filled with decaying remnants of the past. Strange symbols are etched into the walls, and a chill wind whispers through the corridors, sending shivers down their spines. As they delve deeper into the mansion, they begin to hear faint whispers that seem to echo through the halls. The whispers grow louder and more insistent, filling the air with an unsettling chorus. The friends exchange nervous glances, their hearts pounding as they try to locate the source of the haunting sounds. Suddenly, ghostly figures materialize before them, translucent apparitions with hollow eyes and outstretched hands. The ethereal beings glide through the air, their movements graceful yet unsettling. The friends watch in horror as the spirits draw closer, their presence filling the mansion with a chilling aura. With adrenaline driving them, the friends turn and flee from the mansion, their hearts pounding with terror. They race through the dark corridors, their breath ragged and their footsteps echoing off the walls. Behind them, the ghostly spirits follow, their unearthly wails growing fainter as the friends struggle to escape. Exhausted and trembling, the friends emerge from the mansion, their minds reeling from the horrors they've witnessed. They collapse on the ground outside, their bodies shaking with adrenaline and fear. As the mist begins to dissipate, they share a silent vow never to return to the shadowed mansion in the woods.
At the edge of town lies the entrance to the Whispering Woods, a place shrouded in mystery and whispered tales of the supernatural. The path winds its way into the heart of the forest, disappearing into the dense mist that clings to the trees like a shroud. Deep within the woods, a group of friends has set up camp for the night, seeking adventure in the unknown depths of the forest. A small campfire crackles and hisses, casting flickering shadows that seem to dance in time with the whispers that echo through the trees. In a moonlit clearing, the dense canopy of trees creates an oppressive atmosphere, suffocating the sounds of the night. Moss-covered ground crunches beneath the feet of the campers as they venture deeper into the heart of the woods, a sense of foreboding settling over them like a suffocating blanket. Suddenly, the group stumbles upon an old, abandoned cabin nestled among the trees. Its windows are shattered, and the door hangs off its hinges, swinging ominously in the breeze. Moonlight filters through the cracks in the walls, casting eerie shadows that seem to dance and sway with a life of their own. Inside the cabin, the main room is a scene of decay and neglect. Decaying furniture sits shrouded in cobwebs, and dust hangs thick in the air like a tangible presence. The only sound is the creaking of floorboards beneath their feet and the distant whispers that seem to emanate from the very walls themselves. In the bedroom, a tattered mattress lies abandoned amidst peeling wallpaper and crumbling plaster. Moonlight filters weakly through a cracked window, casting eerie shadows that seem to writhe and twist upon the walls like living things. Descending into the basement, the air grows thick with the scent of decay and mold. Rusted chains hang ominously from the ceiling, their purpose long forgotten. The sound of dripping water echoes through the darkness, a constant reminder of the relentless passage of time. In the attic, cobwebs cling like shrouds to forgotten relics of a bygone era. Dusty trunks sit amidst a clutter of long-forgotten possessions, their secrets buried beneath layers of neglect. Moonlight filters through a broken skylight, casting an ethereal glow upon the abandoned treasures that lie hidden in the shadows. Venturing deeper into the heart of the woods, the trees close in around them like silent sentinels, their twisted branches reaching up towards the sky like gnarled fingers. Moonlight struggles to penetrate the thick canopy, casting eerie shadows that seem to dance and sway with a life of their own. As dawn breaks, the first light of morning filters through the trees, casting a golden glow over the clearing. The campfire smolders, its flames reduced to embers, and the forest is bathed in an eerie silence that seems to linger long after the night has passed. In a remote corner of the countryside lies an abandoned mansion, its once grand facade now crumbling with neglect. Four adventurous friends, Emma, Jack, Lily, and Max, embark on a dare to spend the night inside. As they approach, the moon casts eerie shadows on the broken windows. With trepidation, they push open the rusty gates and step into the mansion's courtyard. The air is heavy with the scent of decay, and the sound of their footsteps echoes off the crumbling walls. As they enter the main entrance, a chill runs down their spines. Inside, they find themselves in a maze of decrepit hallways and abandoned rooms. Dust hangs in the air, and the silence is suffocating. Strange symbols are etched into the walls, and the floorboards creak ominously beneath their feet as they explore deeper into the mansion's depths. As they enter a long abandoned ward, they begin to hear faint whispers that seem to echo through the halls. The whispers grow louder and more insistent, filling the air with an otherworldly chorus that sends shivers down their spines. Suddenly, they come face to face with a ghostly apparition, a spectral figure with hollow eyes and tattered clothing. Its ethereal form glides towards them, its movements hauntingly graceful. Frozen with fear, they realize they are in the presence of something not of this world. With a collective scream, the friends turn and flee from the mansion, their hearts pounding with terror. They race through the dark hallways, their breath ragged and their footsteps echoing off the walls. Behind them, the ghostly whispers follow, urging them to return to the darkness. Exhausted and trembling, the friends emerge from the mansion, their minds reeling from the horrors they've witnessed. They vow never to speak of their night in the abandoned mansion again, haunted by the echoes of the forgotten souls that linger within its walls. Greystone Mansion had always been shrouded in mystery in the town of Pine Hill. On a cold, foggy evening, Sarah, an enthusiastic journalist, arrived to investigate the rumors of hauntings for her upcoming article. She parked her car near the gate, feeling a shiver of excitement mixed with dread. The mansion loomed large and foreboding in the mist. Sarah pushed open the heavy wooden door, which creaked loudly. Inside, the mansion was dark and cold, the air thick with dust. She turned on her flashlight, revealing a grand but decayed foyer. Her footsteps echoed ominously as she ventured deeper into the mansion, feeling a growing sense of unease. As Sarah explored the mansion, she felt a sudden chill. She turned and saw a shadowy figure at the end of the hallway. It vanished as quickly as it appeared, leaving her questioning her sanity. Determined, she continued to the library, where she hoped to find records about the mansion's dark past. In the library, Sarah found rows of old, dusty books. As she searched through them, she heard whispers and the sound of pages turning on their own. She discovered an old diary belonging to the mansion's original owner, Lord Greystone. The entry spoke of dark rituals and a curse placed on the house. Sarah's exploration led her to a room filled with mirrors. As she walked through, her reflection seemed to move on its own, eyes following her with an unsettling intensity. One mirror in particular drew her attention. In it, she saw the ghostly figure of a woman crying, her eyes pleading for help. She reached out, but the image disappeared. Sarah discovered a hidden door behind a tattered curtain in the study. She descended the creaky stairs into a dark basement. The room was filled with strange symbols painted on the walls and old dusty books on a table. She found a journal detailing dark rituals and a curse placed on the house by its original owner, Lord Greystone. As Sarah read the journal, the basement grew colder. A ghostly figure of Lord Greystone appeared, his face twisted with rage. He pointed at Sarah and screamed, "You should not have come here!" The walls shook, and the air filled with a chilling wind. Sarah knew she had to leave immediately. Sarah bolted up the stairs, the spirit's screams echoing behind her. She raced through the mansion, the walls seeming to close in on her. She burst through the front door and into the night, gasping for breath. The house stood silent and still, but she could feel the weight of its curse pressing down on her. Back in her apartment, Sarah reviewed the photos and notes she had taken. The evidence of the haunting was undeniable. She wrote her article, revealing the dark history of Greystone Mansion. As she finished, she felt a cold draft and heard Lord Greystone's voice whisper, You cannot escape the curse. She knew the haunting was far from over.
Clara arrived at Ashwood House, an eerie, dilapidated mansion she had inherited from her aunt. The mansion stood on a hill, surrounded by dense, dark woods. The air was thick with fog, and the only sound was the distant hooting of an owl. As Clara walked up the creaky wooden steps, the front door slowly swung open on its own. Clara stepped inside, her footsteps echoing in the vast, empty hallway. Dust covered the floors, and cobwebs hung from the ceiling. The walls were lined with faded portraits of stern-faced ancestors. She felt a sudden chill as she closed the door behind her, the silence inside the mansion almost deafening. Clara moved into the living room, where old, tattered furniture was draped in white sheets. An antique piano sat in one corner, its keys yellowed with age. As she walked past, she heard a single note play, sending shivers down her spine. She turned quickly, but no one was there. In the dining room, Clara found a large portrait of her Aunt Margaret above the fireplace. The eyes in the portrait seemed to follow her every move. As she stared at the painting, she heard faint whispering, as if someone was trying to communicate with her. She felt a cold breeze brush past her. In the library, Clara discovered an old, leather-bound diary hidden behind a row of books. The diary belonged to her aunt and detailed strange occurrences and eerie experiences in the house. As she read, the room grew colder, and she felt as if someone was watching her. Behind a bookshelf, Clara found a hidden door leading to a narrow, spiral staircase. She hesitated, but felt compelled to explore. Holding her flashlight, she descended the stairs, each step echoing in the darkness. The air grew colder and more oppressive with every step. The basement was damp and filled with old, dusty furniture covered in sheets. Strange symbols were drawn on the walls. In the center of the room stood an old wooden table with a black candle, which suddenly lit itself. Clara felt a sense of dread as she approached the table. Clara's flashlight flickered and died, plunging her into darkness. The whispers grew louder, and she felt a cold hand on her shoulder. She spun around to see a ghostly figure of her Aunt Margaret, her eyes filled with sorrow. "Leave this place," the ghostly figure whispered. Panic-stricken, Clara ran up the stairs, the house seeming to come alive with doors slamming and shadows moving. She burst through the front door into the night, her heart pounding. She didn't stop running until she reached her car, vowing never to return to Ashwood House. Breathing heavily, Clara glanced back at the mansion as she reached her car. In an upstairs window, she saw the ghostly figure of her Aunt Margaret watching her. The whispers faded, but the memory of that night would haunt her forever. She drove away, never looking back. In a remote village nestled deep within a dense forest, a young couple, Emma and Jack, arrived at an old cabin they had rented for a weekend getaway. As they approached the cabin, the trees seemed to close in around them, casting long shadows that danced in the fading light. Despite the eerie atmosphere, Emma and Jack were excited for their adventure. Inside the cabin, the air was musty, and the furniture showed signs of age and neglect. Despite its rustic charm, there was an unsettling aura that permeated the space. Emma tried to shake off the feeling of unease, but Jack couldn't help but notice the strange symbols etched into the walls. As night fell, Emma and Jack decided to take a walk through the surrounding woods. The forest seemed to come alive with strange whispers that echoed through the trees, sending shivers down their spines. Despite their growing unease, they pressed on, drawn deeper into the darkness by an unseen force. As they ventured deeper into the woods, Emma and Jack began to see strange shadows flitting among the trees. The shapes seemed to twist and contort, taking on sinister forms that sent chills down their spines. Jack suggested they turn back, but Emma's curiosity got the better of her, and they pressed on. As they walked, the trees seemed to close in around them, their branches reaching out like grasping fingers. Emma's heart raced as she felt a growing sense of dread settle over her. Jack tried to reassure her, but even he couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Suddenly they stumbled upon a clearing, and before them stood a group of ghostly figures. Their pale faces were twisted in agony, and their eyes seemed to bore into Emma and Jack's souls. Frozen with fear, they watched as the apparitions floated closer, their whispers growing louder with each passing moment. With a cry, Emma and Jack turned and ran, their hearts pounding in their chests as they fled through the forest. The ghostly figures pursued them with relentless determination, their whispers echoing in their ears. Desperate for escape, they pushed themselves to their limits, praying for a way out of the nightmare. Finally, they burst out of the woods and into the clearing where the cabin stood. Gasping for breath, they collapsed on the ground, their bodies trembling with exhaustion and fear. As the first light of dawn broke through the trees, they knew they had escaped the forest's clutches, but the memory of their terrifying ordeal would haunt them forever. Lily moves into a small apartment in an old building. It's her first time living alone, and she's excited. As she unpacks, she finds an old, ornate key hidden in a drawer. Curious, she sets it aside, thinking it might open a secret compartment somewhere in the apartment. That night, as Lily is about to fall asleep, she hears faint whispers and soft footsteps. She dismisses it as noise from her neighbors. However, the noises persist, growing louder and more distinct each night. Determined to find the source of the noises, Lily starts searching the apartment. She discovers a small hidden door behind a large cabinet. The old key fits perfectly, and she opens the door to reveal a dusty, forgotten room filled with old furniture and a large, cracked mirror. Lily cleans the mirror, hoping it might give a clue about the room's history. As she wipes away the dust, she sees a shadowy figure move behind her in the reflection. She turns around quickly, but the room is empty. Among the old furniture, Lily finds a dusty diary. It belonged to a woman named Eleanor, who lived in the apartment long ago. The diary details Eleanor's descent into madness, tormented by unseen forces. Her last entry is a plea for help, fearing she would be taken by the spirits. That night, Lily sees Eleanor's ghost in the mirror, mouthing the words, "Help me." Terrified, Lily backs away, but the ghost steps out of the mirror, reaching out to her. The air grows cold, and the room is filled with Eleanor's anguished cries. Panicked, Lily contacts a local paranormal investigator. The investigator tells her that Eleanor's spirit is trapped and needs to be freed to find peace. They prepare to perform a ritual to release Eleanor's spirit. Lily and the investigator set up candles around the mirror and read from Eleanor's diary. The room grows colder, and Eleanor's ghost appears. As they complete the ritual, Eleanor's ghost slowly fades, mouthing, "Thank you." With the ritual complete, the apartment feels lighter. The strange noises stop, and Lily finally feels at peace. She decides to keep the mirror as a reminder of Eleanor and the mystery she helped solve. Months later, Lily enjoys her now peaceful home. She often thinks about Eleanor and is grateful for the experience that brought her a deeper understanding of the past. Life returns to normal, but she never forgets the ghostly presence that once haunted her home. In a secluded village surrounded by dense forests, there was a legend of the Whispering Woods, where the trees whispered secrets and shadows danced in the moonlight. A group of friends, led by Sarah, ventured into the Whispering Woods, drawn by the allure of the mysterious tales. They entered with trepidation, their hearts pounding with excitement and fear. As they delved deeper into the woods, the air grew thick with an unnatural chill, and the trees seemed to whisper secrets in a language unknown. Sarah led the group onward, her determination masking her growing unease. They stumbled upon a small clearing bathed in an ethereal glow, where ghostly figures danced in the moonlight, their laughter echoing eerily through the woods. Sarah hesitated, sensing danger lurking in the shadows. As they tried to leave, the forest seemed to shift around them, trapping them in a nightmarish maze of twisting paths and tangled roots. Panic set in as they realized they were lost in the Whispering Woods. In the heart of the forest, they encountered an ancient guardian, a towering figure cloaked in darkness, its eyes gleaming with malevolence. Sarah knew they had trespassed into a realm beyond their understanding. With courage born of desperation, Sarah and her friends made a final dash for freedom, racing through the twisting paths as the guardian's laughter echoed behind them. At last, they emerged from the Whispering Woods, shaken but alive.
It was a stormy night, the kind that forces even the bravest souls to stay indoors. Sarah sat alone in her dimly lit living room, the howling wind rattling the windows. She glanced at the clock, 11:45 p.m. Just 15 more minutes until midnight. She tried to focus on the book in her lap, but a sense of unease crept over her, making it impossible to concentrate. Suddenly, there was a loud knock at the door. Sarah's heart skipped a beat. Who could it be at this hour, in such weather? She hesitated, then slowly walked to the door, her footsteps echoing in the silence of the house. Peeking through the peephole, she saw nothing but darkness. "Hello," she called out, her voice trembling slightly. No response. She turned away, thinking it must have been the wind playing tricks on her, when the knock came again, louder this time. Determined to face her fears, she unlocked the door and opened it a crack. A blast of cold air hit her, and there on the doorstep stood a small child, drenched and shivering. The child's face was hidden beneath a dark, hooded raincoat. "Can I come in?" the child asked, voice barely audible over the storm. Sarah hesitated. Something about the child felt off, but she couldn't leave them out in the cold. "Of course," she said, stepping aside to let the child in. "What's your name?" The child didn't answer. Instead, they silently moved past her and stood in the center of the living room, water pooling around their feet. Sarah closed the door and turned to face the child, noticing that despite the soaking clothes, the child's face was eerily dry. "Where are your parents?" Sarah asked. But the child remained silent. She moved closer, intending to help remove the wet raincoat, but the child stepped back, finally lifting their head. Sarah gasped. The face beneath the hood was not that of a child, but of something far older with hollow, sunken eyes and a twisted grin. "They couldn't make it," the entity whispered, voice dripping with malice. Fear paralyzed Sarah as the creature took a step forward. She tried to scream, but no sound came out. The lights flickered and the room grew colder. Suddenly, the clock struck midnight, and with each chime, the creature grew larger and more menacing. Sarah stumbled backward, her mind racing for an escape. As the final chime echoed through the house, the creature lunged at her, its bony fingers outstretched. In a final act of desperation, Sarah grabbed the nearest object, a heavy candlestick, and swung it with all her might. The creature let out an unearthly screech and vanished into thin air, leaving Sarah alone in the dark, trembling and gasping for breath. The storm outside began to subside, and a strange calm settled over the house. Sarah looked around, her heart still pounding, but the creature was gone. She locked the door, bolted the windows, and spent the rest of the night huddled on the couch, the candlestick clutched tightly in her hands. As dawn broke, Sarah finally allowed herself to relax. She had survived the night, but she knew deep down that the creature was still out there, waiting for another stormy night.
In a small town nestled among the hills, an old abandoned mill stood tall, its dark silhouette looming against the twilight sky. For years, the townsfolk had whispered tales of strange occurrences within its decaying walls. Tonight, a group of curious teenagers dared each other to explore its depths, unaware of the horrors that awaited them. Among the group was Sarah, a brave soul who accepted the dare without hesitation. Her friends, Alex, Jake, and Emily, exchanged nervous glances but followed her lead. Armed with only flashlights and nervous laughter, they ventured into the mill, their footsteps echoing in the silence. Inside, the air was thick with dust, and the floorboards creaked beneath their feet. Shadows danced on the walls, and strange symbols adorned the crumbling brickwork. The group pressed on, drawn deeper into the labyrinthine corridors by an unseen force. As they explored, they began to hear whispers, a faint, ghostly sound that seemed to emanate from the very walls themselves. Sarah's heart raced as she urged her friends to keep moving, but the whispers grew louder, echoing through the halls like a sinister chorus. Suddenly, a figure materialized before them, a ghostly apparition with hollow eyes and a tattered gown. Sarah gasped, frozen in terror as the ghost reached out with spectral hands. With a scream, she bolted, her friends close behind, but the ghost pursued them with relentless determination. They raced through the corridors, their hearts pounding in their chests as the ghost closed in. Sarah could feel its icy breath on her neck, its chilling touch sending shivers down her spine. With every turn, they prayed for an exit, but the mill seemed to stretch on endlessly, trapping them in its clutches. Just when all hope seemed lost, they stumbled upon a door, a faint glimmer of moonlight shining through the cracks. With a burst of adrenaline, they pushed through, stumbling out into the night air. Behind them, the mill collapsed in a cloud of dust, the ghost's haunting cries fading into the distance. As they collapsed in exhaustion, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that the ghost still lingered, watching them from the shadows. She vowed never to return to the mill, but she knew its haunting presence would stay with her forever, a chilling reminder of the dangers that lurked in the darkness.
On a chilly autumn evening, four friends, Emily, Jack, Olivia, and Michael, gather around a campfire near Willow Creek. They share ghost stories and dare each other to spend the night at the old abandoned house on the hill. Despite their fear, curiosity wins and they decide to go. The friends arrive at the old house, its silhouette looming against the night sky. The house is in disrepair, with broken windows and ivy creeping up the walls. Jack pushes open the rusty gate, and they walk up the overgrown path to the front door, which creaks loudly as they enter. Inside, the house is dark and cold. Cobwebs hang from the ceiling, and dust covers the furniture. They switch on their flashlights, revealing faded wallpaper and broken picture frames. As they step further inside, the front door slams shut behind them, making them jump. They enter the living room, where an old grand piano sits covered in dust. Emily notices a family portrait on the wall, the face is scratched out. Suddenly, the piano keys play a haunting tune on their own. The friends back away, their hearts pounding. They move to the kitchen where rusted appliances and broken dishes are scattered. The air is colder here. Olivia opens a cupboard and a pair of ghostly eyes stare back at her. She screams and the cupboard door slams shut on its own. The friends huddle together, terrified. They find a door leading to the basement. Michael suggests going down, but Emily hesitates. The others convince her, and they descend the creaky wooden stairs. The basement is pitch dark and damp. Their flashlights reveal old furniture and strange symbols on the walls. In the basement, they find an old table with a Ouija board. Suddenly, the planchette moves on its own, spelling out, "Leave now." A low growl echoes through the room, and they see a shadowy figure with glowing red eyes. Panicked, they rush back up the stairs, tripping over each other in their haste. Desperate to leave, they race towards the front door. The house seems to come alive, with doors slamming and ghostly wails echoing through the halls. They struggle to open the front door, finally breaking it open and escaping into the night. The house falls silent behind them. Outside, they collapse onto the grass, gasping for breath. The house looms dark and silent behind them. They vow never to return, each one haunted by the night's events. The night is cold, but they feel a sense of relief and safety as they walk away. Back at their homes, they try to return to normal life. But each night, they are haunted by nightmares of the glowing red eyes and the whispers in the dark. The memory of that night stays with them, a constant reminder of the terror they faced. The whispering woods loomed ominously under the fading light of dusk. Trees stood tall and twisted, their branches reaching out like clawed hands. A thick mist settled among the trees, obscuring the path ahead and adding to the sense of foreboding. Deep within the woods, an abandoned cabin stood desolate. Its windows were boarded up, and its door hung off its hinges. Weathered wood and creeping vines adorned the exterior. Inside, darkness and mustiness filled the air, with cobwebs hanging from the ceiling like ghostly veils. The living room of the cabin was sparse, with a dilapidated sofa and a dusty rug covering the floor. A broken window let in a chilling breeze, causing the faded photographs on the walls to flutter ominously. The kitchen was in disarray, with broken cabinets and scattered utensils. The sink was stained, and a thick layer of grime covered the countertops. A single flickering bulb cast long, eerie shadows that danced across the walls. The backyard of the cabin was overgrown with weeds, and old rusted gardening tools lay abandoned among the tangled foliage. A gnarled tree stood in the center, its branches reaching out like skeletal fingers against the moonlit sky, adding to the eerie atmosphere. The whispering woods at midnight were cloaked in darkness. The trees seemed to sway and whisper secrets to each other, their branches creaking in the stillness of the night. Strange, ghostly lights flickered among the shadows, adding to the sense of otherworldly dread. The bedroom was cold and drafty, with a creaky bed covered in moth-eaten sheets. Moonlight filtered through the cracks in the boarded-up window, casting eerie patterns on the floor and illuminating the room in a ghostly glow. The attic was filled with dusty, forgotten belongings. Old trunks sat in the corners, their contents long forgotten. Cobwebs hung from the rafters, and the air was heavy with the scent of decay, as if the very walls were whispering tales of the past. As dawn broke, the whispering woods were bathed in the soft light of morning. The mist began to dissipate, revealing the twisted trees and tangled underbrush. Birds chirped in the distance, bringing a sense of calm to the once eerie forest, as if the night's terrors had never existed. A car rumbles down a winding road, disappearing into the dense forest. Inside, a group of friends chats nervously, excitement tinged with apprehension evident in their voices. They've heard the stories about Willow Grove, an abandoned village rumored to be haunted, but they've come seeking adventure. As they approach the outskirts of the village, a shroud of mist descends, cloaking the world in an eerie haze. The friends step out of the car and into Willow Grove, their footsteps echoing through the empty streets. The village appears frozen in time, its buildings crumbling and overgrown with ivy. Windows are shattered, doors hang off their hinges, and the air is heavy with the scent of decay. Despite the desolation, a sense of unease settles over the group as they venture further into the heart of the village. At the edge of the village stands a grand mansion, a relic of a bygone era, its windows boarded up and its once grand facade crumbling. The friends exchange nervous glances as they approach, their curiosity outweighing their fear. With trembling hands, they push open the creaking door and step inside, their hearts pounding in their chests. As the friends explore the mansion, they feel an oppressive presence weighing down on them, a sense of malevolence that seems to seep from the very walls. They hear whispers in the darkness and catch fleeting glimpses of shadowy figures out of the corners of their eyes. Fear grips them tight as they realize they're not alone in the house. As the night wears on, the friends uncover clues about the mansion's dark past. A family torn apart by tragedy, their spirits trapped within the walls for eternity. They find old photographs and newspaper clippings, piecing together the story of the family's demise. But as they delve deeper, they awaken something sinister that has been lying dormant for years. As the night progresses, the mansion comes alive with paranormal activity. Doors slam shut on their own, objects move of their own accord, and ghostly apparitions appear in the darkness. The friends huddle together, their screams echoing through the empty halls as they realize they're trapped in a nightmare from which there's no escape. With adrenaline coursing through their veins, the friends make a final stand against the evil that haunts the mansion. Armed with makeshift weapons and fierce determination, they confront the ghostly apparitions that roam the halls, knowing that their survival depends on their ability to banish the darkness that lurks within. As dawn breaks, the paranormal activity subsides, and the mansion falls silent once more. The friends emerge from the darkness, battered and bruised but alive. They exchange weary smiles, knowing that they've faced their fears and emerged stronger for it. Though the scars of their ordeal will never fully heal, they take solace in the knowledge that they've conquered the darkness that once threatened to consume them.